Hello and welcome to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Today is May 7th, 2021. This is episode 292. The Union for Queen and Country. That's what we're looking at today. This is a Marvel comic. It is the 5th issue. It comes in a whopping $3.99. Now, the first two issues were actually part of the King in Black event, and the last three have been their own arc altogether. I've been loving this comic. I can't recommend it enough. I think I'm the only one that really likes it, though, so warning on that. I just thought it was very humorous. It's action-packed. I like the characters in it. The story is very unpredictable. It has lots of twists and turns. We'll get into more of that in a moment. I just want to describe the cover to you real quick. We have Britannia. She was hired by Darwin Tech to put together a British type Avengers group. And she has Union Jack here. She has Snakes, who has the strength of 10 men. She's got the Choir, who uses this powerful voice to disrupt. She can actually aim it and break things apart or knock people out. And we have Kelpie, who's an ancient water demon, so she has the power to control fish and water and whatnot. Now, Union Jack, he's just a human. He's a cross between kind of Batman and Deadpool. And the reason Batman, he's human, he's very athletic. Deadpool, because he's always kind of wisecracking. Now, with the demise of Britannia in the first issue, when the symbiote dragon suddenly appeared during a training activity, they asked Darwin Tech asked Union Jack to take over the reins, and they were able to push the symbiotes out in the second issue, but then Kelpie and Scream and Snakes didn't want anything to do with Union Jack. They thought he was a joke. He has no superpowers, and they basically left him in a lurch. Mad Dog came along in the, I believe it was the third issue, maybe the fourth, and he's just a small guy but very tenacious. He's always up for a fight. He's unstoppable, pretty much. Kind of a mini juggernaut, if you will. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about who worked on this. They give us a nice little roster of who everybody is right off the bat. Selwyn James, he was actually a supervillain at one time. He was known as Sponge Boy, and he had the kind of the power that Rogue has, where you could take it over and use those powers against the person he's fighting. Now he's an administrator, and he's kind of the leader, the administrative lead for the Union. We get a short, brief synopsis of what happened in the first couple issues there. We see it's part 5. Meet the New Emperor is the arc on here. Not the arc, but the story for this chapter, I should say. It's called the Britannia Project is the name of the arc. And the writer is Paul Grist. The penciler was Andrea DeVito. The inker was LeBeau Underwood. Nolan Woodard was the colorist, and VC's Travis Lanham was the letterer. The cover artist was Andrea DeVito, LeBeau Underwood, and Nolan Woodard. So the same people are doing this cover. And it's nothing special. It isn't really a depiction of what happens in this story. However, all these characters are in there. And we also get a return of Britannia as a kind of a ghost spirit, which is kind of interesting in that aspect. Like you didn't see that coming. I thought she was going to come back as just a normal hero again. Okay, where we left off at the last issue, we were at the Tower of London in the Inner Keep, where the Emperor's Stone is kept. And they were trying to keep it away from Doc Croc, who has assembled his own group of supervillains to help him out. He's got Volcana, he's got Shimmering Lights, and he's got the Hypnotized, the Choir, and now she's known as Scream, which she was Scream before the Choir. She could, at the beginning, she couldn't really speak. Doc Croc gave her this very super powerful voice that could knock down buildings and all kinds of stuff, knock out people, you name it, and she could aim it very well. So you can see Union Jack is back here. They tried to stop Doc Croc from breaking in, but he broke in, and at the last moment, Darwin, who owns Darwin Tech, grabbed the stone for himself, and he's proclaiming himself to be Emperor of Britain. As the scroggy Union Jack gets up, his first thought was to stop Doc Croc. Now he's got the Doc Croc also has a small corgi that talks named Craig. That's kind of a little jokester on his own, and he does things that are very unpredictable. So first off, Union Jack just reflexively just tries to knock Doc Croc over, and then he goes after Darwin. Darwin in turn tries to strike Doc Croc from behind as he's approached Darwin, and there's a shield appears suddenly behind Union Jack. Meanwhile, Scream is no longer under the control of Doc Croc, and she sheds her helmet and says, I'm the choir, I'm going to help my friends. And suddenly Britannia bursts, the spirit of Britannia bursts from Union Jack and frees herself to come at Darwin herself. So it's like all these things are happening all at once. It's great. It's just action-packed. Things that you're not expecting. Darwin's able to stop the spirit because he's all powerful now, and he blasts out of the the Tower of London. And starts flying away. And he's a human now with the stone. It's made him all powerful. In the meantime, the last issue, Snakes was taken down, and he's reassembling himself. He's a bunch of snakes basically, but he has the power of 10 men. Kelpie was attacked as a water demon, and she was flattened into a puddle, and she's regaining herself, while Mad Dog or Bulldog was pinned to the ceiling with an anti-gravity device, and he's able to wrest that away and come to the aid too. Union Jack is regaining his senses, and he says, Tanya, she's kind of been knocked out, and as you can see, the choir also notices her as well. So they're trying to regain their status. Doc Croc and Volcana and Shimmery are going after Darwin as their own. Meanwhile, Craig has gotten lost, and Selwyn's hiding around the corner. He's going to take Craig's powers and shapeshift, because this last guy he took was a shapeshifter. So he's still got the shapeshifting ability. He's going to go ahead and take Craig's shape. Meanwhile, the Union are outside. They have spotted Darwin. He's kind of floating in between the tower bridge there. We see him from above, and he's proclaiming his that he is the Emperor of Britain. However, Doc Croc and his crew are closing in on Darwin as well. And they realize that Darwin is heading towards 10 Downing Street, where the Prime Minister of England hangs out. So we've got a quick number of little series here where Union Jack's going to go to the 10 Downing Street. Bulldog has asked Snakes to throw him at Darwin, and he does knock him from behind, kind of startling him. But there's some funny little things going on. Like I said, the Union Jack's just a human. He pulls another human out, and just grabs his car and takes off. Okay, then we get our summer lineup, I guess. Meanwhile, Kelpie is using the water to try to trap Darwin, which Darwin fends off very easily. And Kelpie tries again to come at him, but again, Darwin stops him and knocks her aside, knocking a pedestrian off. Well, Snakes grabs the pedestrian, much to the horror of the pedestrian. Even though he saves her, she's like, get away, get away. And we find out that the general public thinks Snake, Bulldog, the choir, and Kelpie are actually monsters and not heroes at all. Meanwhile, Darwin flies off to 10 Downing Street with Union Jack on his way as well. So Union Jack sees Darwin landing there, and he just crashes the car into him. And Darwin's able to stop it. He's uninjured. He throws Union Jack down. Union Jack's really getting kind of beat up in this. As Darwin walks into 10 Downing, he's suddenly hit by a blast of flame, and that's Volcana. Doc Croc has arrived with shimmering lights. Darwin, using his powers, destroys the helmet mechanism on Volcana, and she burns up alive. Meanwhile, Shimmering Light goes to make a play at him using her Shimmering Light, and she gets completely taken apart here. And nothing seems to be able to stop Darwin at this point, except for Union Jack surprises her with a little help from Britannia. You can see the spirit behind him, and he knocks him out cold. And the stone drops from his hand. Doc Croc suddenly grabs it, and he's gotten all his power aura now going on, but not before Craig, which is really Selwyn. This is just great. It just keeps going on. Is able to sneak up on him and attack him and have him drop the stone. So the stone is recovered by the good people of the Union as the choir gives Doc Croc one last blast here. And the stone is put away in a safe place. Meanwhile, Selwyn describes of how he was able to help take back the stone. The rest of the Union has suddenly disappeared, and Union Jack, and you get Britannia up on a cliff there. They haven't seen her. And poor Union Jack, who's just been beaten up these last few issues, is just recuperating, and they have a little bit of a nice little conversation at the end. So that's the end of the story, and I'm hoping they'll be back because I really like the way Paul Grist wrote this. It was really exciting. The characters were so entertaining. This is definitely a good dig. I had a good time digging this, so I am giving this the Indie Comics Jones Good Excavating Seal of Approval. It's probably out in trade as a 5-issue set. I'm hoping for people that didn't get a chance to read this, because I think it's well worth it. The characters were just so enjoyable. They all have nice backstories, and there's a lot of humor involved too. Just fast-paced. It's an easy one to read when you're tired. It just goes like that. So thanks for stopping by and listening to this review. As always, I've got more reviews coming up. Oh boy, I got a handful of comics left to do still. So please stop by again. Please like, please subscribe, please leave comments, and as always, this is Indie Comics Jones from the wonderful Temple of Tomes bidding you adieu.